Okay, this is going to be a quick, short, and sweet review on haunted Plano, Texas. If you are like me, I live in the DFW area, and Plano, Texas is, of course, a neighboring town. And this was published in 2018. And I actually found this when I was researching ritual abuse kind of stuff in the area. And on a forum where somebody was talking about this book, they mentioned this. So I'm just going to focus on one part of this that is pertinent to this audience here. So in previous videos, I've talked about the satanic panic and that sort of thing. And I have a real problem with it. I'm hesitant to even repeat that phrase because that has really been used to diminish a lot of actual occult activity that took place in the 70s and 80s. And it is now written off as this satanic panic era where it was all just hysteria. And those of us who lived through that era and were paying attention will remember that there very much was actual satanic activity, just like there is today. I had several friends that got started becoming dabblers in, buying the Satanic Bible and trying to get into that. And those guys, most of them were on the shallow end of that. But there was a lot of strange stuff. There's a lot of reports, credible reports, and a lot of ritual activity in a lot of the undeveloped land around the outskirts of Dallas by all my friends. And the funny thing is, and I think some of you have commented about this before too, that the funny thing I've experienced is some of my friends, some of the very friends that will relay accounts to me of actual satanic ritual activity, some of it really dark, really messed up stuff, are the same ones who will tell me that the kind of stuff that I'm researching is satanic panic. So it's funny that you get this weird about face as soon as you point out that you have just relayed to me evidence of satanic activity. Oh, no, that's all satanic panic. So anyway, so that's one of those things that I find really interesting, that has really effectively shut down, at least for the majority of the public, won't even believe their own experience over they'll think that maybe I just experienced that little bit of it, but that's not real. They're obviously telling me that it's a satanic panic, so that's what it is. So against that backdrop, that's where we get to haunted Plano, Texas. And back when I was a kid, we would hear stories about a place over in, I think, what is now part of Garland, which oddly enough, that's where Mike Judge, I think from of Beavis and Butthead fame, hails from there. That's where he named Arlen, Texas for the King of the Hill cartoon series. So little trivia for you there. But anyway, Ranch 111 was a private ranch. Back then, it was way out in the sticks. I mean, it was way out past, you had to drive. It's probably about 15, 20 minutes from my house now. And that area was undeveloped pasture land and mostly just private ranches and whatnot. And everybody knew, again, it was just kind of an open secret that that's where a lot of the satanic activity happened. That if you want to go spy on the Satanists, you could go over there and watch them do their thing. So this is one of the few books that I've ever seen make reference to Ranch 111. It's called, in chapter 18, it's Stranger Things at Ranch 111. And it says, you won't find any newspaper reports, but in the 70s and 80s, everybody in Plano knew about Ranch 111, a wooded area where unspeakable things happened. Devil worship, human sacrifice, animal mutilation, witches' covens, satanic cults that would kidnap your kids for their fiendish rituals. Now, I find it interesting that this author kind of tries to have it both ways. They're talking about some, again, this is by Mary Jacobs in 2018. She both addresses this as this very fascinating, like satanic curiosity, but then on, just a couple of pages later, walks that all back and says the satanic panic, that this is all just, the fevered imaginings of right-wing Christians, which again is nuts because the people that I knew that told me about all this were anything but evangelical Christians. So she relays some firsthand accounts that are really interesting. And I found this especially interesting because one of the first things that happened in the early 2000s when, again, still when the internet was still relatively young and forums Facebook didn't exist yet. So a lot of internet forums that were popping up, in this case, like a lot of alumni forums were popping up. And one of the first topics to pop up on the alumni forum for my old high school was about Ranch 111 and everyone sharing all their crazy stories. So again, this wasn't just a couple of crazy evangelicals coming up with this stuff. So I find it interesting that this, she says, one online forum on Ranch 111 drew ominous warnings from those who claimed to have witnessed its horrors. One called Ranch 111 unholy ground and pleaded with fellow forum members, please don't go chasing horror stories. I did, and that decision cost me 8 years of nasty experiences. Best to let some things lie. Another reported a late night visit when a man in a truck threatened him with a shotgun. They took off in a panic and crashed their car. The armed man left without stopping to see if they needed help. One recorded some distinctly weird sights, a candle-like flame suspended in midair, and multicolored lights that seemed to appear from nowhere. Another in the forum observed a group of adults conducting a ritual around a bonfire. I couldn't say whether this was a real hardcore satanic cult or if it was just a bunch of young people sucked into the legend, he wrote. I do know that what I saw that night, it scared the hell out of me. So anyway, interesting. I'm curious, any of you that grew up in especially the northeast side of DFW, I'm curious if any of you remember hearing anything about Ranch 111. But again, all of the people who relayed their experiences to me, I was too young at the time. I was back when it was in its heyday, back before that area was developed. I was in grade school, so it wasn't something I could easily access. But my older brother and his friends were always trying to get up the nerve to go out there and spy on some of the ritual kind of activity. Now, am I saying human sacrifices occurred or anything like that? Obviously, I have no evidence of that one way or the other. But I do find it interesting that, again, this is one of those things that you have a lot of revisionist history where ritual activity is concerned. And haunted Plano, Texas, there's a lot of other good stuff in this. If you're into haunted stuff, local haunted sites, a lot of good information on that. I don't mean to pick on Ms. Jacobs for that particular part of it, because it is some good information. It is always surprising for me to see anything about Ranch 111, but especially to see it in print like this. So my hat's off to her for at least putting that out there. I'm a little annoyed, though, that she followed it up with the standard satanic panic line. So anyway, curious also, those of you who follow my channel, that I'm curious who else out there has heard of similar hot spots around your area or areas around you that were kind of the local ritual hotspot. Because again, everybody I know that grew up around here has some area like that. There was an area, my wife grew up over in Fort Worth and around Crowley, and she knew of the local ritual kind of area out there in the country there. Have another good friend from Duncanville that knew of the area down there south of Duncanville. So all of these areas had their spots that were just known spots of this kind of ritualistic kind of activity. So there you have it. This is a little bit of a rambling aside to haunted Plano, Texas, but this is from Mary Jacobs from 2018. And all other ritual talk aside, this is a interesting little slice of haunted life from Plano, Texas.